Welcome to the Glitter Boom Girls show. I'm Robbie-Ann McPherson in New York on the East Coast, and on the West Coast,
Amy Asbury in Los Angeles. How's everybody doing?
I hope everybody's fine. I always hope everybody's fine. And we're fine too, right, Aim?
Of course.
Yeah, we're blessed. So, today's topic, bullies. The school bully.
That's right.
Who was yours? Who terrorized you? Did you terrorize someone? We want you to think about those things. And we're going to discuss our history and our recollections of various or not bullies. So, Aim, let's start with you, though. Mm-hmm. When I say to you, school bully, boom, what happens in your head?
I think of not so much the people that bullied me in particular, because I was pretty shy and quiet, but I think of all the bullies I witnessed, all the fist fights I witnessed, all the girl fights I witnessed, all the gang fights I witnessed. And the strangest of all, living in LA was a town of many, actors and actresses, and also lots of child actors and actresses. The bully at my actual school in grade school was in A Christmas Story. Not Scott Farkas, or whatever his name, but the little guy with him.
That guy, you went to school with that guy?
His name was Yano, and he was sorry, Yano, and I'm sure you're a great guy now. He was 2 grades above me, or a couple grades above me, and he was like the guy at school everybody was afraid of.
So wait, let me get this straight.
Okay.
So Yano was his name. Yano. Okay,
Yano.
So Yano.
And you know what, guys? He was also in a Van Halen video. Hot for Teacher. He played, I guess, the child version of one of the guys.
Was he Waldo?
Not Waldo.
Waldo.
Anyway, at school, he had like checkered Vans and like an Aussie shirt. He was really cool. He had really curly hair. But yeah, he was kind of the guy around school who you were like, oh, shoot, don't want to get into it with Yano.
Really? So he back in the day, who knows what he's like now, but so when you went to school, your recollection of him was he was kind of the like typecasting, like the school bully?
Yeah.
Wow. I'm stunned. I never knew that you went to school with somebody in A Christmas Story.
Oh, like all over our schools in LA, and it's the Valley, guys. We had a lot of the Kids Incorporated kids. We had kids from some of the Disney shows a little bit later. There's always all the kids at our schools were always on Punky Brewster or Silver Spoons. They're always kind of the background kids, or the kids in the background of the bike shop at Different Strokes. They're always, all those kids always were at the schools with us.
Because their momagers were like,
it's the
dragging
Valley.
them around from audition to audition.
Yeah, like, around the Valley, there's Corey Feldman, and there's, these kids are around.
Yeah.
So we're not best friends with them, but they are around. But as far as actual bullies, there was a lot of fighting at my schools.
What would they fight over?
What would they fight over? Basically, gimme your now and laters. Something stupid. And I think one of the biggest bullies...
I'd throw down if somebody wanted my now and laters.
I was walking home from school in kindergarten by myself, because it was the 70s. And this kid followed me home, all the way home, every single day. He was so big in my head, but he was in 2nd grade, guys, which means he was 7. And anyway, he followed me home so close, he was stepping on my heels. He walked that close to me home every single day. And I thought, and he would never speak. He never spoke. I thought, can this guy say something? It's so scary because he's not speaking.
Was he sweet on you?
I don't know. It was very scary. My mother said, oh, he must like you. And I thought, that's a little strange. Anyway, so when I got to my street, which is a cul-de-sac, there was a little kid.
Cul-de-sac.
His name was Lee on my street. Anyway, there's a bunch of kids on my street. Somebody had, I think it was my sister, somebody was on a big wheel, guys, all right?
Big wheel.
The guy that followed me home, I think his name is Albert, walked over, no words, sat on the big wheel, wouldn't get off. And
on your big wheel?
I don't know if it was mine or my sister's. It was one of ours.
Okay.
I think it was mine, guys, actually.
It was an Asbury family big wheel.
It was, yeah, and he would not get off. And it felt like hours passed. It was probably a half hour though. And we couldn't get him off this thing. And he just sat on it, stared straight ahead, wouldn't get off. And in my head, I thought, this is a real bully. He will not give me back this big wheel. So then finally this teenager comes walking by and one of the kids is like, can you help us? He won't get off her big wheel. The teenager, who looked just like Willie Ames, everybody, picks up the kid on the big wheel, tries to shake him off. And I'll never forget just seeing him upside down with his hair hanging down in some like corduroys. The guy's shaking him over the concrete. And then, mind you, cars are driving by. They're like, wait, what is happening? Oh, it's the 70s. Is there
like change falling out of his pocket and stuff?
His hair was just kind of going upside down and like shaking, bobbing. And he finally falls off the thing, just collapses under the concrete. Got my darn bike back. But it was always something like that.
Oh, he wasn't hurt though, was he?
I don't know. I don't remember what happened. I just remember thinking, finally got my bike.
Was he the kid whose family was really messed up?
We never knew.
Was he the one on the street?
In
like,
LA,
there's always one.
You never knew what was going on with people's families, who their families were. It was too big of a town, kind of.
Yeah.
So you never got the background, but there was always some kind of incident like that where like somebody would take something of mine or steal something of mine. And it was this huge thing in my head.
I had a totally different childhood. Like I grew up in a small town, a small suburb of Buffalo, and it was a lot like a more rural kind of Happy Days.
Really?
Honestly, we had a big high school. I think it was about 1,200 kids. It was 9th through 12th. And there really wasn't a bully. Like, I went through all 4 grades there, and there were some kids who were kind of jerks, and there was some money in the town. Now the town is like super money. Back when I lived there, it was like Cowtown, but there were a couple of families that were well-to-do, and some of those kids weren't very
what were they like?
Friendly. Just entitled, but they weren't like, you never were afraid to go to the bathroom or something. Like, you never got your ass kicked. The only thing I recall was more like emotional bullying, like
that's a thing. That's a real thing.
But I was so uncool. I still am. I always was. And you know what? I wear it proudly. I wear my uncool flag. It's a badge. I am so proud that I am not hip, that I am not, because hip people are miserable. Like, they can't bust out laughing at something stupid. They're just
it looks very boring.
Yeah, they're so hip and cool. And I always figured that if somebody was that mean, there was like some trauma, or they're like, I heard it. Somebody said this to me once about a guy who stole his bike. And I was like, oh my God, aren't you furious? And he goes, you know what? If he's stealing bikes, my life on my worst day is better than his life on his best day. Because all I lost was a bike. And I was like, wow. So I think about that a lot. Like, if there's a bully, wait a minute. I just realized, you know what? I was a victim of physical violence once.
Ooh, tell me.
I was. Okay, Catholic school, first grade, waiting in line for the pictures.
Okay.
School pictures. This kid, Rocky, was in front of me.
Rocky.
And he had a cowlick in his hair. And I said, Rocky, you should comb your hair. And he just turned around and boom, punched me right in the stomach.
Sorry, that's so not funny. So
no,
wait,
it was. I like doubled over. Like, what the hell?
So was Rocky Italian by chance, or what do we know any further info?
All I remember of Rocky was he was a cute little kid. He was small. Like, he was smaller than I was.
Poor babe.
But he just hauled off and bam. And it was not a light punch either. He punched me like a boy. Like, he didn't punch me like I was a girl. Yeah, it was brutal. And I don't know. I had this, my mind went to different places. Like, I thought, maybe his parents can't afford these pictures, and so he's already stressed.
Wait, you actually thought that? And
maybe he's a latchkey kid.
Did you think that later in your life, or when you were?
No, I thought that then.
Really?
Yeah, I was always weird that way.
You had empathy.
I always had really crazy empathy, and I always invented backstories for everything.
That's
There's always a backstory.
Great coping mechanism. I always just try to get away from the person.
I just stood there in line, and nobody saw it, and he just like went boom and turned around. It
I
was,
don't
I
mean
mean,
to
it was
laugh.
actually like,
It's kind of
it was
crazy.
kind of a boss move.
You're like, what? Okay, shoot.
It was like, he delivered his message and just turned around. And I just stood there and I like doubled over, and I was like, ugh, and I thought I was going to throw up, but I
Wow.
didn't. And then I just sort of stood up and shook it off. And that was it.
So, what were y'all wearing on that picture day? Were you guys wearing some great Brady Bunch outfits or what?
Boy, what happened to my first grade picture? Every school picture I ever took
Uh-huh.
was horrible. I mean,
Well,
bad hair,
that's
bad
why they always
outfit.
are. It's got to be.
No, no,
It's
no. Because see,
fun.
that's the thing. That's the thing about my school.
Hmm.
The girls were all super pretty. They all had the right clothes. They had like, if you're supposed to have Levi's, they had Levi's. If you're supposed to have, what was it? What was the alligator?
Lacoste?
Lacoste. If you're supposed to have Lacoste, they had
Hmm.
Lacoste.
Oh,
They had the
wow.
polo shirts when the polo shirts were in. They had, their socks matched their sweaters, which matched their turtlenecks,
Oh,
and like
fun.
everything. They were super stylish, and their moms always hovered over them, and they were always curling their hair, and me. I mean, I was lucky if I combed my hair before I got to school.
I
So,
always think about these well put together girls because I had the same group, and it's the mothers that knew about beauty and fashion because some mothers just did
right.
not know about that, and their
Yeah.
daughters suffered, sadly.
Yeah. Yeah. Like my mom, I she had her own sense of style, and my mom was a flat out beauty queen. Like she was like, Miss whatever town 1960.
Was
Like
she
she
really? I did not know
Oh
that
yeah,
about your mother.
she's a total beauty queen. Like
That's so
the
cute.
total 60s blonde, and then in the 70s her clothes were really hip, and my mom had a good sense of style, but my mom was not a fancy groomer. Like she didn't spend an hour on her makeup and her hair. It had to be easy and quick, you know?
Okay,
And
okay.
so I never did really learn about makeup, and she certainly didn't put it on me, and I was very tomboyish anyway. Like I played outside all the time. I was always covered in mud, and I was always climbing trees and whatever. So I think because I didn't go to her and say, mommy, I want pretty dresses, and blah blah blah. Instead I was like, mom, I want a camera, I want a bike, I want to,
Uh-huh.
like I probably didn't encourage it a lot. So but you're right, and that in and of itself, I think, led to like the shunning, and it was a subtle shunning. It wasn't bullying, but it was like I didn't look or dress like the popular kids, right? So
Uh-huh.
I didn't get invited to those parties, and they did sort of shun me because I didn't appear to belong. I didn't know the rituals. I didn't
Yes.
I didn't understand
You
all that
didn't have the
stuff, right?
secret handshake.
Yeah, yeah. And if I went to their houses, they had all these like pretty bedrooms with, pretty stuff all over, and their furniture matched. And it was like, and they
Wow.
had all their sweaters neatly folded in the closet, and their mother did their laundry. And, and I was always
Wow.
kind of in awe. Like they had a desk to do their homework, instead of doing it on the floor like I did. Like I was
So
always kind of
funny.
in awe. And it's nothing against my parents. Hey, my
Not
parents
at
are
all.
great
Not at
people.
all.
And I actually think I learned some skill sets,
Certainly.
from I mean, I can solve problems.
Of course, of
I'm
course.
really
It was
good
just
at solving
different. It was just
problems.
different.
Yeah, I had to learn how to, pay attention to fashion and do my hair. But the solving problems part, because you got to figure stuff out when you don't have a mother that does everything for you,
That's
or a
right.
father who does everything for you,
That's right.
which, yeah, and that's a huge gift. But you know what? You do have a fashion flair. So how did that work in your school? Was it like, what group were you in?
I was in different groups at different ages. When I was very young, I was very shy. All through grade school, I was the smart kid, the one everybody copied the papers from, the leader of all the little groups. I had my glasses that I pushed up on my nose. I had two Laura Ingalls braids. I was a nerd, but I felt smart, and I felt like I had a purpose, and I didn't mind it. And I had so much more fun in life being called smart than I did being called pretty or sexy. In the later years, it was not as satisfying being known as hot or pretty or whatever in your 20s as it was being creative and smart and having leadership skills at 10 or 11 with glasses on was so much more satisfying to me than all of the compliments in the world at all the nightclubs and blah, 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 you know?
Yeah.
In high
Yeah.
school, I was like the scary, kind of mean. I had bright purple hair. I was tattooed. I was kind of like, it could be dangerous on certain days. There were stabbings and there's all kinds of things. So at my high school, you wanted someone to look at you and just move on to the next person. I just, I dressed to not get into basically don't pick me because I could possibly fight you. I was kind of scary
Right.
as in
It
high
was like
school.
it's like prison. Like you got to kick
Uh-huh.
somebody's ass on the first day.
Correct. So it was like that at my high school. Not for everybody, but for me. And then in middle school is when I really was studying the magazines, the music videos. My mother didn't know anything about makeup or hair, nothing. So middle school was me trying out every single style I saw on MTV until I settled on, okay, I want to be like Tawny Katane, when I was like 14. Okay, that's what I'm going for. Not a good thing. But I loved looking at Bananarama when I was 12, 13.
Oh, they were
Madonna.
which Bananarama? Karen,
I was all
Siobhan,
about
or
Karen because I had the coloring. I had the blue eyes and the
yeah.
real dark hair.
Yeah,
So
I
I
could see that.
loved the light jeans with the black and the big hoops and. So I went kind of for the Bananarama look. I was still shy, so I didn't have the confidence to back it up. But then I finally, once 14 or 15 hit, chose, okay, I want to be this, I want to have glamour. And I was always practicing my makeup and drawing pictures of makeup. And so I
So
kind of
you learned
needed
it
something. Yes.
you learned it from music videos and
Music
stuff
videos,
and magazines.
magazines, not.
Yeah, I guess I was so addicted. I know we're not talking about bullies right now, but I was so addicted to MTV
Mhm.
back in the day. I didn't learn things from the channel, but I was definitely inspired. I just didn't know how to get from A to B. Like the chicks that I idolized in the early days of MTV, I thought the ZZ Top chicks
Oh, they
were like
were.
that was it. Like they were, what I thought I was going to grow up to be.
I did grow up to be like that, and I like, kind
You
of made
did.
those outfits, kind of. Yeah.
You grew up and you were a video vixen,
Yes,
totally.
totally, totally.
But I would look at them and like I didn't understand how to get from like the nerd I was to to these girls. And I just thought that you could kind of choose how you were going to grow up. Like if you wanted to grow up and be Sue Ellen, you could grow up and be Sue Ellen from Dynasty. If you wanted to be one of the ZZ Top girls, well, you can grow up and be that.
Well, you
I
could
didn't.
though. I did. I was also Sue Ellen. I was also a crazy vixen, mean, bitchy person too. I took on all of those personalities from all of the shows and tried them all out, and they were all really fun.
So in a way, you were a bully.
Oh yeah, I did. I actually was kind of a. So when I was 14 and I figured out my look and I was really sexy and I looked like one of the ZZ Top girls.
Yeah.
There were bullies at my school who were making fun of some kids, and I was the one who went over to the bullies and said, "How about you pick on me and leave that kid
Oh,
alone?" And the
nice,
boys were like, and they felt stupid. So I actually did a
nice
lot of
move.
defending once I got my power. I did a lot of defending other people. But anyway,
You didn't like seek out weaklings and then bully them just for the sake of bullying them.
no.
You were just tough.
Well, I was a
And
badass. Yeah, if
if
somebody was,
somebody needed an ass kicking, you were handing them out.
yes, but also, I would try to defend the people that were a little too scared, maybe, or out of their
Yeah.
comfort zone.
Yeah,
And
I
I had
think that's
nothing
a
better to
different
do, so
kind
I'd
of
jump
bully.
in and be like, "Excuse me," I'd be like that person.
Yeah, because that's not really a bully. I mean, to me, the definition of a bully is someone who abuses people for the sole purpose of elevating themselves.
I never did that. As I got older, I cared less about morality and right and wrong. I just did whatever I wanted. I was very impulsive. But that was never something that I found very fun. That just wasn't in me. I didn't really.
Yeah, like you weren't, when you say morality and stuff, you weren't talking about hurting other people. You were just talking about having fun,
Just
right?
didn't
Like you
care.
were,
I didn't really care.
yeah, like you were just like, oh, okay, what will make me have fun today?
Yes.
Or what do I feel like today? Yeah.
But I didn't like a bully. And to this day, I don't like a bully. And if I see somebody, I don't know, even berating somebody at a restaurant, I don't like it. And I will step in or say something if I see it. I don't like a bully, guys.
Yeah, I don't either. I'm not as inclined at this old age to get involved, but yeah, there were definitely times when I was when I actually exercised that whole part of my personality is I've worked at a bunch of nightclubs, just
Ooh.
like cocktail waitress or, taking money at the door or whatever in Buffalo and in Manhattan. And I mean, you work in a nightclub, oh my
Ooh.
God, because people get a few drinks in them and and in Buffalo, one of my jobs for a time at this one huge dance club, this old dance club in Buffalo called the Inferno,
Ooh.
which I'm sure Buffalo people listening, like as soon as I said the Inferno, they're all like, oh my God, because it was notorious. Huge play, one of those huge dance clubs, with the giant dance floor and the huge lighting and, boom, 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 chicka, boom, chicka, boom, one of those places, right? So one of my duties there was I literally stood in the doorway of the girls' bathroom because we could not shut the door. There were stalls in there. It was like, I don't know, 8 stalls or whatever. But we couldn't shut the door because if we shut the door, women would go in there and either do drugs or get in fights.
Yes, of course.
So the one day, the manager was like, okay, we need you to watch the ladies' room today. And I'm like, watch the ladies' room? And keep in mind, my outfit was little black hot pants, black tights, red pumps,
Ooh,
and
I
a
like
sleeveless tuxedo shirt with a bow. Like
that.
it was,
Hi.
I mean, it was ridiculous. So I was like, okay. I'm like, what am I doing? She goes, only let 10 people in there at a time. So 8 in the stalls, 2 at the mirrors. And I'm like, how do I do that? She's like, you put your foot up across the door.
Whoa.
So there I stood, leaning on the door frame with my leg stuck across, propped up on the opposite door frame. And it was, 2 would go out. And I'm like, okay, 2 go in.
Comfortable for you.
I mean, talk about policing bullies. I mean, they'd all be in there, and as soon as 4 of them started crowding against the mirror, and you'd suddenly see a little shoving and pushing, and then all of a sudden hair's flying and there's shoes all over, and I'm like, drinks crashing,
Wow.
I cannot tell you how many women I pulled off of other women in that bathroom.
That's
it was nuts.
Wild.
It was totally nuts. And what puzzles me, I was never scared.
Okay, like, that is very...
So that's what I mean by I get your feeling. Because to me, I could always identify who started it. I saw them, I watched one belligerent person after another, bump and elbow and what's the matter with you? What do you do? Watch where you go. All of a sudden it was like, throwing down. And then the bouncers, they kept an eye on me. Because they weren't too far away at the where the front door was, and there was another one by me. So they would see me disappear out of the doorway, and they'd run over. They would pick these women up by the collar and the mini skirt, and just throw them out in the snow. That was it. Just
in the
get
snow.
out.
So you were there in your red pumps, with your red pump on that door?
Yeah. Yeah.
This I wish I could see a picture of.
And I was like a bouncer.
You were a bouncer.
Because these women are like, I gotta get in there. I gotta. I'm like, you're waiting in line like everybody else. Shut up.
Wow. This is so out of character for you.
I can't believe I didn't get shanked or something.
Funny.
It was this. What was I doing there?
I don't know. What were you doing there? Was it because you loved music?
Well, it was my first job.
Oh, really? How old
Yeah,
were you?
I had two jobs at the same time. 16. I started
16?
working.
Sorry, guys, I
Yeah, I
just yelled.
started. Yeah.
You were doing that at 16?
Well, I was like 17 and a half by the time they had me working the door on the regular drinking nights. And the drinking
How
age was
funny.
21.
So
I don't
funny.
understand what was happening with that place, but
So funny.
it is long gone. Um Unfortunately, there are several people associated with that place that have actually died, like horrible tragic
Mhm.
deaths. It was I mean, folks,
R.I.P.,
parents,
guys.
don't don't let your kids work in a nightclub.
Mamas,
I
don't
mean,
let your
let your
baby.
kids be a
Sorry.
bathroom bouncer. Yeah, because listen, if they want to work in a nightclub when they're in college or they're adults,
Oh,
fine, fine, right?
guys.
But like, don't encourage your children to get a job
Your
at a nightclub.
mother did not encourage you to work as a bouncer, did she?
Well, no, but
Please
my
tell
mom
me
was
no.
not living with us at that time. So,
So, so is it my imagination, or did you get the job and then let them know what you were doing?
no, no, actually,
Oh no. Tell me.
actually, I heard that the club was opening, and my dad knew someone
It's always a
involved.
dad.
So, and I wanted to work there
Oh,
because I thought it would be the
goodness.
coolest thing ever.
Well, it
Because it
would.
started.
When
Well,
you're
wait.
sixteen.
I'm leaving out an important fact.
All
It
right.
started out as a teen nightclub.
Okay. Okay. That's
Okay,
fair.
so it was like pop, you know,
Sure.
but still the element, you know, the kids going in there. These were not kids who were like, oh, I'm going to college, I'm going to be a dentist. These were kids that were like selling drugs and, you know, trying to figure out ways to scam a ride home and, you know, sneaking alcohol in and like all this stuff. And here I come. I mean, I am the biggest nerd. I am the most like vanilla rule
But
following,
that
you
had to
know,
make
okay.
you rather cool.
No. No, because back in my group at my high school, they were like, "Ew. Why are you working at that scumbag nightclub?"
Oh,
So I got
oh.
shunned there. And then I'm here at this nightclub and they're like, "Ew, you're from out in the boonies?" You know? And so it was like,
You
I
couldn't
don't know.
win.
It was terrible. It was a bad choice on my part, you know. But there were a lot of bullies there. Let me tell you. Oh my gosh.
Whoa.
I mean, there was one girl in particular. I mean, she ruled the place. Everyone feared her.
What was her name?
Literally feared her.
What was her first name?
Her name was, well, I don't know if I want to say her name.
Okay, just give me a fake name.
Um Betty. Let's say Betty. They
Betty.
called her Fat Betty.
Fat Betty. I love it.
Yeah, that was her name. Like you said that to her face. Like that was the moniker she went by, Fat Betty.
Whoa.
And she had one of those shaved with the tail in the back
Oh,
haircuts
that's
like
a
a boy.
don't F with me haircut.
Yeah, yeah, she was very very tough. She was like a mobster. I mean, this girl was like 16. She was very scary.
Wow.
I of course, because I am such a nerd, and because I, you know, was raised with manners and everything else, like I just treated her like, oh, okay, you know.
Okay.
She'd come up to me when I was working in the Kochek slash pizza thing, and she'd be like, give me a piece of pizza. And I
Oh,
go, okay, that's $1.
yeah.
She'd be like, I don't have $1. And I said, well, then I can't give you the pizza.
Right.
You know, and then she'd disappear, get $1 and come back. And I'd give her like 2 slices. Like I actually, I mean, I was corrupt.
You worked
So
with her.
I started,
You worked with her.
I was like, I think I just had this instinct. I think I better make friends with this girl.
You were like, ooh, she's gonna be
Yeah.
trouble if I don't,
Right, right. So, but anyway, yeah, that was,
So that is very colorful. So I did not know this about you.
yeah.
That's
And she was the
pretty
quintessential
bold.
80s bully, man. Holy cow.
What? So tell
Woo.
me a tiny bit more though. So the shaved head with the little rat tail. Was there a
Yeah.
lot of makeup, like
No
what
makeup.
I'm picturing? No makeup.
0 makeup.
What was the
Yeah.
outfit choices?
The outfit choices were large t-shirts and like a type of cargo short.
Oh
in the
my.
80s. Even in the winter, she had cargo shorts on.
Okay, well, I'm scared. I'm legitimately scared thinking of these
Yeah.
outfits.
Cargo shorts, tube socks, and sneakers.
Okay, that's frightening. That's
Fat Betty.
ghastly.
Yeah.
And so there were
Yeah,
no
I wonder
boy
whatever happened to
bullies at your
Fat Betty.
school?
Fat Betty, she's probably like an attorney now, or, she's like a CEO of a $1 billion software company.
Well, we had a ton of quote unquote mean girls, you know, in middle school and high school, and they just kind of had the eyebrow up, and they would
Oh,
just
yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
watch you as you walk by and giggle.
Yeah.
And again, it's one of those types of bullying that is very quiet. And they say with females, it's very hard to pin down who's a bully. It's very hard to get to the bottom of it at schools because it's very quiet like that. And it's basically
Yeah.
they're just laughing at you and they're talking about you and they're whispering about you. There's tons and tons of those.
Yeah, there was some of that at my high school. And that's what I meant by the emotional bullying. Like you definitely knew who disapproved of you.
Yes, you
You know,
did.
you got the eye, you got the little smirks and whatever. But even then, even though had a low self-esteem, like many teenagers do, I still had a sense somewhere that their bullying and their expressions toward me really didn't have a lot to do with me.
That's
Like
so great.
somehow I knew that, and it didn't stop me from adjusting. Like if I got a lot of sneers and looks from wearing a certain pair of pants, never wore them again.
Okay.
I mean, it didn't stop me from trying to avoid triggering those things. But it wasn't like I wanted to be friends with those girls because what fun is that? Like my whole goal then and now is I just want to laugh. Like I just want to have fun. I want to laugh. I want to find stuff to laugh about. I want to be around people I like and people who like me, connect with people. I don't really love small talk. And those girls I knew were not the type to, listen to Sean Cassidy records and giggle. Like I wasn't really.
Well, I like that you were mature enough to realize that at that age.
Yeah, I know. I'm not sure why. Like I always had a weird maturity and a weird insight that was beyond my years. Like an old soul, they say,
Of
right? Like you
course.
are. You're the same way.
I was not like that at that age, though. I thought, and I didn't necessarily want to be friends with these females, but in
Mm-hmm.
the back of my head, I wanted to pass as, oh, I could walk amongst them and there would be no snickering. I
Yeah, yeah.
secretly
You wanted
thought,
their approval. You didn't
yeah,
want to
I
be
thought,
friends
well,
with
I
them.
want to look normal. What about me is so strange? And then
Yeah,
it kind of bothered me because I wasn't sure exactly, is it these earrings? Is it the shoe? Is it the scrunchy socks?
yeah,
Scrunchy? Is it the length of the skirt? And then you're kind of wondering, is it the hair? And because you don't know what they're laughing at, it drives you insane. It drove me insane.
right.
Until I got to that point where I was kind of the bad girl, the Sammy Joe slash Joan Collins, when I became that, then they kind of like scurried away.
Yeah,
But
that was your defense. Your
that was
defense
the defense. They
mechanism.
scurried away,
Yeah.
and then I would purposely walk by their boyfriends and stuff. You know,
Yeah, that didn't do me any good.
that was really fun. But it was a lot more fun, like I said, to be the smart kid than all that. It was kind of a waste, all those years trying to copy the ZZ Top ladies didn't really get me anywhere. But
Well,
anyway,
it got you some
I got a
interesting
ton
stories.
of confidence, but it really was way more hurtful to me and my
Yeah.
identity because it all kind of went on to that. Okay, you know, I don't know. But yeah,
Because then it just became, well, yeah, you sort of traded one
hmm
form of approval for another, right? Like, instead of instead of trying to get the bitchy girls to approve, now you're trying to get men to approve, right? Like,
yeah, and that was just way too easily done, and it was too much. It was way scary.
yeah, that's a
Scary
lot
when
for
you're very
a
young
young,
like that. Usually your parents
right?
stop you and they're like, whoa, 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 you're gonna get assaulted, And mine did try, but I got, if you're a little young, tender 14, 15-year-old dressing like that and going out and about in the big
Right.
city, very, very dangerous. So
Yeah, running around on the strip. I mean,
Very
that's
scary.
that's
Yes.
tough. Yeah, and I probably benefited a lot from a very, very small town, Happy Days upbringing because I was not around that stuff. That stuff was not available to me. I mean, the only
Were,
big city stuff I ever did was go to concerts, and half the time my dad took me.
were there
So,
drugs and stuff at your school? Did they have?
you know,
Had to have been.
back in the 80s, when I was in high school, yes, like you knew where to go
Okay.
if you wanted some. Like I never did drugs. I've never even
That's so
smoked pot. Like
good.
I'm such a friggin' square. But
Great.
like it was common knowledge. Like I just kind of knew the kids that had the weed and the kids that had like speed and coke and other stuff, right? I just kind of knew
So
who they
at
were.
your school, what did the kid who had weed look like?
He looked like a kid who would have weed.
That's what I'm
He
saying. Like,
was
how did it
yeah,
look in
he
the
had
70s? Like, what
he
was
had
that
the
look?
longish hair that was feathered,
Yeah, of
like
course.
Keith Partridge hair.
Yeah.
He had an eternal jean jacket.
Of
Always had a jean
always a
jacket
jean
on
jacket. Oh yeah.
and usually a flannel shirt,
Yeah. Sorry
you
to say,
know.
guys.
And then he
Flannel.
might have his wallet on a chain. Um and then there were like 7 of them that all looked like him too.
Yeah. And did
And
he have a
and
very sparse mustache?
Uh, yeah, yeah. And on occasion he did, yeah. Like,
Yeah.
and the other ones did too. They were like,
What did you call them? Because we called those heshers in the valley. Some people called them
oh
hessians, or some people called them
no, we called
rockers.
them. Well, I don't know. Did we call them? I mean, I feel like maybe we called them heads.
My mom called them
Like
burnouts. I'll never forget
weed heads.
the burnouts.
Yeah, burnout maybe, but
You call them
it
heads?
wasn't. Yeah,
That's
like
cute.
like a dope head, but it wasn't. It wasn't like that though. Like I don't know. I'm trying to figure out the context because it's not like we sat there and they walked by and we went heads. Like it didn't work that way.
No, you kind of had a respect for those types. Like you just let them live amongst you. Oh,
Yeah, and you know
never
what?
bothered them.
These were also, by the way, these were also the guys who took the bus at like 2 o'clock and went to the vocational school.
Oh yeah, of
You know,
course, of course.
which here is known as BOCES. An acronym for something. And so they would leave every day along with the girls in that group who had like the feathered swoop hair
They kind of looked just
and
like
wore a
them.
lot of blue
Yeah,
eyeshadow and a lot of like Charlie. No, not Charlie. What were they wearing? They were wearing like some
patchouli.
crazy.
Ours were wearing patchouli.
No, nobody wore patchouli in our
Oh, ours
school.
did. Oh, God.
No, they were wearing some kind of perfume, Jean Naté, maybe, I don't know. But they would all get on this bus at 2 o'clock and they were going to learn, they were going to BOCES vocational school to learn auto mechanics,
Plumbing.
cosmetology, yeah, plumbing, electrician. And here we were, I mean, we were all like gearing toward college, right? Like we were all in this pre-college prep thing.
Hmm.
And so we would look at them like, oh, there they go, 2 o'clock. And I mean, I look back now and I'm like, those kids had their shit together. Like now, those kids,
Well,
they're
they
making
always
good
have a job.
livings. They're in unions. Yeah, they
They
figured
always
it
have a
out.
job. Electricians.
Yeah, and they always had really cool muscle cars because they knew how to fix them.
That is
You
so
know,
cute. It's very true.
yeah, it's totally true. And they were nice. Like they weren't ever mean to anybody. I had zero problem with them, and they were not like they were not, they were not like pushers. They were just sort of in their own little clique. And some kids usually in the jock crowd, those were the ones doing the drugs. They would go to these heads, and then you know if you watch Fast Times at Ridgemont High,
Of course.
that was pretty much my high school experience. There was never anybody hauling me out behind the bleachers and kicking my ass or, none of that. I
Right.
sort of floated in and out. Nobody really cared. I'm sure there are a lot of people I went to high school with who don't even remember me. Like I was kind of that person. But if you watch Fast Times at Ridgemont High, all of the types,
Right.
I'm
Same.
like, oh my God, there was that guy, and Linda, Phoebe Cates, there were a million of her,
Right.
you
Right.
know?
Right. Right.
Yeah. So that was
movie
kind of
was
my
filmed in
experience.
my town, so I know exactly all those places, and the sky even looked like that. Just everything. The
Yeah, because
street,
they shot the mall scenes at what used to be the Sherman Oaks Galleria, right?
correct.
At Ventura, and what was
All
across
of
street?
that, uh, Ventura and Sepulveda.
Yes,
So that
that's right.
whole movie just it looks like my childhood, really. I mean, the people.
Yeah,
But I mean, I guess those types are in every state. I guess those are kind of the types back then.
yeah.
But and who was there a bully in that movie? I'm trying to think.
Well,
I think
not
Damone
exactly.
was kind of a jerk, a big jerk.
Yeah, Damone. Well, I think
Do you have love for
a
Damone?
couple of the people. No, 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 I don't.
Okay.
Zebby. No. But a couple people in that movie, some of the characters bullied other characters specifically.
Yes.
Like I think Damone, he bullied Rat, the little kid that was in love with Stacy. Because then Damone, and Damone's kind of
Well, and don't
um,
forget he kind of pushed himself on Stacy also,
right in the pool house.
which is
Yes,
really, really.
right.
Hmm.
And then Linda, in a way, she was a little bit of a bully, I think, to Stacy too. Like, oh, you don't know anything, and oh, I'm dating this older guy, and blah blah blah. Doug. I've seen that movie like 5 million times. I
Yeah,
love that movie.
me
It's
too.
such a great like snapshot of
It's really
80s
great.
teen life. Like for at least it was close to my
That was
experience.
right between yours and my. I feel like that was right in the middle between both of our experiences. That was a
Yeah,
little
yeah,
older
because
than
it was
me, and
right, but it was your location. Like that was your stomping grounds. Yeah, and I was way out here
it's like,
on the
oh, I
East Coast,
recognize this.
freezing my ass off. So, Aim, we're out of time
Are we
talking
really?
about bullies and our tender years.
Oh,
Um, we want to thank you guys for hanging out with us and hit us up on Twitter, Glitter Bee Girls on Twitter. DM us, tell us if you want us to cover something or if you have something to say about bullies. We definitely appreciate your spending time with us and we truly love you. Don't we love that, Mimi?
we so do.
Right? Because it's nice to have you around. So thanks for listening.
Yes.
And I'm author Robbie-Ann McPherson. I wrote a novel called Taking Liberty, which is available on Barnes & Noble and Amazon.com, Kindle or paperback. And Aim, plug your
Hmm.
stuff.
Oh
Plug
gosh,
your
my
books.
stuff: Sunset Strip Diaries, Confetti Covered Quicksand,
Yeah, you have like a
Once
million books.
Upon the
Amy's written a
80s.
million
Lots of
books.
nostalgia.
Yeah,
Just
Amy Asbury,
look up Amy
everybody.
Asbury. There's poke around. You'll see something that
Yeah.
maybe suits you.
Yeah, Confetti Covered Quicksand is, I think
Oh, you're so sweet.
that's my favorite. That
Thank
is
you.
a fantastic book. And Sunset Strip Diaries, I think that's probably your most famous book, right? That's
I suppose
your
it's
yeah. And
very.
then Once Upon a Time in the 80s,
Ah, that was so
like
fun. What a
the
fun
greatest
book.
collection of 80s nostalgia ever. So if
Thanks,
you are into
Rob.
80s and you're into 80s nostalgia, Once Upon a Time in the 80s by Amy Asbury. It's available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble too, right?
That's right.
Yeah. All right, everybody. So we're going to sign off for now. We'll see you next time.
Bye,
It's
everyone.
the Glitter Boom Girls Show.